brought to you by Penguin.
Workhouse Girl by Holly Green. Read by Julie Maisey.
Chapter 1. Liverpool, October 1867. Patty Jenkins stood on the quayside and watched the SS Royal Standard steam out into the Liverpool Bay. The ship's rails were lined with passengers waving their last farewells, and the quayside was crowded with people waving back, many of them in tears. The ship's ultimate destination was Australia, and they all knew that the chances of meeting their loved ones again, when they were going so far away, were very slight. By straining her eyes, Patty could just make out one figure among all the rest. A slight, almost girlish form wearing a surprisingly stylish bonnet. She was waving, like the rest, but it was not to Patty. A little distance away, a young man was waving back, his expression distraught. He had shouted something as the ship drew away from the quay, but Patty had not been able to hear what he said. Patty recognised him. His name was James Breckenridge, and he was a solicitor's clerk, a respectable young man with good prospects. But, for the last few months, he had been keeping company with May Lavender, the girl on the ship. How someone in his position came to be walking out with a milliner's apprentice, an orphan, brought up in the Brownlow Hill workhouse, was a mystery to Patty. May had not made any secret of the relationship, but she had kept her friends at arm's length when it came to any discussion of it. And now, without any warning, without even saying goodbye, she had booked a passage on this new steamer and was off to Australia. The only reason Patty was there to watch her sail away was because one of the salesgirls at Freeman's department store, where Patty worked in the kitchen, had told her that on the previous day May had been going round the shop with a note from Mr. Freeman himself, instructing the staff to allow her to choose anything she needed for a long voyage to a warm country. Then she had managed to worm out of one of the porters the information that he had been instructed to carry May's new suitcase down to the docks and see it put on board the Royal Standard. Patty turned away with a heavy heart. She and May had been friends ever since they were children in the workhouse. They had been separated when they were both sent into service, she to work in the kitchens of Speke Hall, the great mansion a few miles from the city, and May as a maid-of-all-work for the Freeman family. Patty had thought she was the lucky one to start with, but she had soon learned that being the lowest of the low, in a house with a large staff, was a miserable position, whereas May had found the opportunity to demonstrate her skill with colour and design, and caught the eye of Mr. Freeman, who was then just building up his haberdashery business into the first department store to open in the city. He had placed May as an apprentice to his milliner, Nan Driscoll, where she had soon acquired a regular clientele of her own for the hats and bonnets she created. Patty knew she had been less than happy when Nan had retired and was replaced by Miss Jones, who had very firm ideas about the place of an apprentice. But surely that was not reason enough to suddenly throw everything away and rush off to the other side of the world? Patty was mystified and hurt. She was going to miss May very badly. When she entered the big kitchen, which catered for the employees of Freeman's store, she was berated by Mr. Carton, the head cook, for being late for work. Since, like many of the staff, she slept in a dormitory on the premises, she had no reason not to be prompt. Patty ducked her head and muttered an excuse about waking up with a headache and having gone out for some air. None of the other kitchen staff had known May well, and she did not feel like discussing what had happened with them. She washed her hands and set to work on the pastry for some apple pies. She enjoyed making pastry and cakes, and she was good at it. The one bright spot from her time at Speke Hall had been the chance to work with Monsieur Blanchard, the pastry cook. He had taken pity on her, and in the rare intervals when she was not being hounded, from scrubbing dishes to fetching water to building up the fire in the great open range.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?